Hi, welcome to After the Tower. My name is Toland, and I'm happy to be here with you in this moment. In today's episode, I'm speaking to Amalia golomb-leavitt, who I met through the Venus Revolution program that started in March 2023. And we didn't connect until towards the end of that program, and we talk about it. Amalia reached out to me asking about my ayahuasca experience, but we ended up having like a 3-hour FaceTime conversation about all sorts of things. And, you know, Amalia's become sort of they've become kind of a spiritual friend for me in these times. And it's been great to have someone to reach out to and who understands things from a similar perspective, a human design, astrology perspective. And so I'm excited for you all to hear this conversation. And in our kind of interview, Amalia talks about their decision to leave their job as a therapist. And, you know, for them, it's not even just about a job. It represented a lot of things for them, which they get into, and kind of how this tower moment of coming to that conclusion and letting go of that identity, how it kind of set off a bunch of other shifts and changes that they've been going through since, and how they've navigated that. And they kind of are really still kind of in that process and still really understanding it. And they have a lot of brilliant things to say and a lot of interesting perspectives to bring to it. And I'm excited for you all to hear this conversation. And so to ground us a little bit, Amalia is a Taurus Rising, Aquarius Sun, Pisces Moon, and Amalia, they are a 4/6 emotional generator. And Amalia, as we talk about a little bit at the end of the podcast, but Amalia does astrology readings, human design readings, tarot, Saturn return readings. They, unlike me, they have a deep understanding of both astrology and human design and weave both those systems in a very lovely way. So if you are interested in a reading with them, please reach out to them at their email, amalia.lcsw@gmail.com. Definitely recommend connecting with them. And you can connect with me at tolandlawrence.com. Anyway, I hope that you enjoy the episode. All right. Hi, Amalia. Welcome to After the Tower. I'm super happy to have you here today. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Tom?
I am doing okay. I think I'm feeling some of the intensity of the Scorpio full moon we're having right now, but like in a way that I feel it and I'm avoiding it, kind of.
Yeah, in
But
true
hope
Scorpio fashion.
what?
In true Scorpio fashion.
Exactly. But hopefully this conversation will excavate some things that need to be excavated.
Yeah, let's dig it out.
Let's dig it out. But I guess what I've started asking my guests in the beginning, and then mostly as like a warm up, is what is your association with the tower? What does it mean for you? What has it meant for you? What does it bring up for you, at least at this moment in time?
I mean, I'm not sure if I have anything particularly unique associated with it. I think it's like it's all gonna crumble, and like it needs to. I think I have kind of a hard on for it because I like whatever. I like transformation and I like that Plutonian, like, let's get to the deepest deep. Like, I've got a lot of Scorpio, like, it's in my seventh house, Pluto's there, and like, um, I also have a lot of fixed stars, the stinger stars in Scorpio, and I think, yeah, I like it feels very Scorpionic to me, the Tower card. So it's like funny that we're doing this to like it feels auspicious that we're doing this today. Um, and yeah, it feels like I guess my like I have this association. I guess like cards like tarot, like the Tower and Ten of Swords and Three of Swords, like these like big cards that I think a lot of people are like, oh fuck, when they draw them. For me, there's always relief if I draw them in the deck because I tend to feel that energy when it's there for me.
Hmm.
So I'm usually like, oh, thank you for reflecting what I already feel and know. And like usually if I like draw Three of Swords, I'm like, yeah, thank you for seeing me. Like that's heartbreak is so real. And I think I kind of have a similar association with the Tower. I know you're not necessarily asking like what do I feel when I draw it in a deck, but I think that probably says something that that's my experience with it.
No, I think it definitely does. And like you say, it's like the tower to me, I've been thinking about like it's just the truth that change happens, that things fall apart. Like that's inevitable. And it's like what you're saying. It's like, okay, finally someone's saying the truth, which is very
Hmm.
Scorpio. Finally,
Hmm.
we're finally getting to the bottom of it. And we're saying like
Hmm.
what's actually happening here.
Yeah.
Um, and the tower traditionally is ruled by Mars, which Scorpio is also ruled by Mars. So there's definitely a connection there in that Martian, but like the water version of Martian energy. So, yeah. And I think for me in this moment, yeah, I've just been like more and more having these conversations, just feeling like the tower as like an inevitable natural part of life.
Hmm.
Like this is what happens. Things don't stay the same. They don't get to stay the same, and we wouldn't enjoy it if they did. And I'm always saying, like, even though my Taurus sun would love everything to stay the
Hmm.
same,
Yeah.
would love everything to be stable, it wouldn't make me happy. And I also want to ground us in how we know each other. Because I told you before we like recorded, like you're the probably like the closest friend that I've actually recorded with. And we obviously met through the Venus Revolution experience, but we didn't really like connect that much during it. I think it was
Hmm.
like towards the end, you reached out to me because you wanted to hear about ayahuasca.
Hmm.
And we had like a 4 hour conversation or something
Hmm.
ridiculous like that. And since then, there's just been this kind of ebb and flow with us of like connecting and, having these long conversations. And obviously, we have so much in common in terms of shared interests, of
Hmm.
human design being like our number one big shared interest.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's been like really cool to because I think before we became friends, like I really hadn't had like any long-term spiritual friends who shared that interest. Like I do classes with people and then we go away.
Hmm.
And so it's been cool to have someone to like check in with and like we know each other's charts and like we can kind of have those kind of conversations, which is like really it's just amazing because I think it's like I can say things much quicker and like I feel like you get it
Yeah.
because we have this shared language and
Yeah.
because you are as if not more passionate about human design and the esoteric as I am. And it's just been like a really wonderful thing to be kind
Yeah.
of in flow with you in that
Yeah.
arena. So yeah, I'm just naming that experience. And I don't know if there's anything that you want to add to give people context to how we're meeting each other in this moment.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's funny because at this point, it's kind of a pattern for me that like people I connect with in a container, it's often after the container's over
Mm.
that I connect with them. Like even in like high school, it was like that. Like my best friend from high school, like we solidified that after graduating and college too in some ways. And I don't know what that is about, but I think there's this way that I was like, in my head, I was already like, oh yeah, I'm vibing with Toland. Like we were already vibing in the container. I was like tracking you kind of, but like
Yeah.
then I was like, okay, like let's like bring this into the material plane. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's funny because we still never met in person. So
I know.
we're slightly more material, but like not really.
Not really. Like
Yeah.
that's like the weird thing. Like cuz I hadn't before like I did Venus Fan and like gotten more into this. Like I just have not that person that's had a lot of online friends. Like it's not an
Uh-huh.
experience that I've had before.
Totally.
And I think there is like maybe like just like this old millennial part of me that was like it's just not as real. But then like I think the pandemic started to shift that for me
Mm,
and because you had to and like I was like oh no you can have a really deep conversation online and it can
mm.
be just as connective and like and so anyway but I am curious if we ever meet in person what that would shift or what that would be like
Yeah,
but at the same time like I feel like it's like I don't feel disconnected from you if that makes sense
totally.
you
Yeah, yeah,
know
yeah.
which is
Yeah.
interesting yeah but anyway
Hmm.
so we're not having one of our normal chats where we just talk about what's going on in our lives and then talking about how the human designer astrology is affecting it. Maybe we will though.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I don't really know what I'm doing here. I'm just like We're just going. We're just
Yeah.
trying. And yeah, so I guess I just want to like start off by kind of, you know, when you're thinking about like tower moments in your life or
Mhm.
moments of transformation or moments of upheaval, yeah, like what do you want to talk about today? I think that's essentially
Yeah.
what I'm saying. Like what's up for
Yeah.
you or what feels like a story that you want to tell?
Yeah. I mean, this is whatever.
Hmm.
Used to this, and whoever listens to this will soon be used to this, but like I can't answer a single question directly. So welcome to the ride. But I think what's coming up for me, it kind of came up like when you asked me what my associations were with the tower.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we moved on, I was like, oh, this is what it actually feels like. And like what it feels like to me is like breathing. Like it feels like, I don't know if it's the in breath or the out breath, probably some level of like out breath that it's like, when you like breathe all the way out and then you're out of air. So I don't know. There's I'm not sure like what exactly the one to one is, but there's something for me about being I mean really what it is it's like with a tower moment, there is the ability to breathe in fresh air in like the most relieving, like soothing, refreshing way possible. There's like this newness that's like can be really painful, but like really I don't know, like incredibly alive. Because that's what it is. It's like, there's so much crossover, I think, between like death and tower moments. Like it's deep, it's death work. And so I think I feel really alive in those moments. And, ironically and not ironically, like in moments of death. And how can I connect that to what you just
Let's not connect it to anything just yet. I
said?
think I think you said what you said for a reason. And I think,
Mhm.
you know, like I love what you said. It's like it's this removal, this exhale to breathe in the fresh air again. You know,
Mhm.
it's
Mhm.
removing the
Mhm.
staleness from your system,
Yeah.
from your environment. And again, like that isn't like that sounds nice when we're talking about breathing, but the
Mhm.
actual experience of it is painful. But like I think about like what you said, like the connection between death and life.
Mhm.
And like if nothing ever died,
Mhm.
nothing new could be born, or we
Mhm.
would just like the world would become overpopulated with all the
Yeah.
things that are being born. We'd be stuffed
Right.
full.
Yeah.
We wouldn't even be able to like exist. And
Yeah.
so it's like, and this feels very full moon in Scorpio. It's like, like, can you accept the death
Mm.
and can you embrace it because of its like because of its connection to life and new
Mhm.
life and
Mhm.
fresh
Mhm.
air
Yeah.
and like that sort of thing. So I think that that was like a really cool articulation.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really how it feels for me. And there's this way that like, yeah, I think it was really, I'm a Taurus rising and I'm very fixed in a lot of ways. I've got a shit ton of Aquarius too, and I've been really conditioned, also open spleen, like whatever. There's all these different ways that you can look at my tendencies to hold on to things. But I've gotten like in my life really, I don't know, it's been so incredibly healing to like just notice what's already dying and then jump on that ride instead of fighting it and be like, okay, how can I like death doula the pieces that are like shedding, and like where do you need to move and like show me how you need to die and then like how can I facilitate that gently or not so gently
Right.
sometimes. But I think it's like breakups have gotten not easier but like smoother as I've gotten older because I can like it's like I can sort of become aware or awake to the ways that something is already dying. And then in that moment, I already get to be like, oh, we're on our way to an inhale, like and actually, I
Mm,
feel so much more alive and so much more present and so much more attuned to the person I'm with in the moment that I'm like, oh, like, how can I like care for this thing that's on its way out? And like that being actually like just so much more nourishing to me than fighting it. And yeah, I mean, I think there's like 100,000 tower moments that I've experienced in my life. I'm like very made of Saturn. and they're all present. Like we've talked about this. Like I think that the last year and a half really has been has been just like deep free fall. And so I think there's like I don't know, I honestly was thinking what I was thinking of as being like the tower moment that I was going to talk about was, I quit my job a little over a year ago now, a year and a month ago, basically. April 1st, I was a therapist and I had not been working for me. And there was the tower of quitting my job, but it was like a tower on a tower on a tower. Like it was also like a tower of quitting like mental health industrial complex for me,
Mm.
which I've been engaged with from age zero. Like my family had multiple therapists and or whatever, psychiatrists, psychologists, and I had really difficult relationships with them and really harmful experiences with them, a lot of which were very, very intrinsically tied with their practices and their like attachment to whatever, like clinical psychology and experiences I had just from very young ages interfacing with the mental health system and then going to grad school and for social work and then being a therapist. Like there's just like all of these ways. Like I feel like my whole life I've been studying this complex, this system from so many different angles. And so one of the stories I have about my job is that that was just like the last view I had. And I'm not saying the last ever. Like I'll probably end up whatever. I mean, I'm still in therapy, so that, it's not like I'm completely divorced from it,
Right.
but I think, yeah, all that's to say, like it's like if you look at an iceberg, it's not just the part above the water that you're quitting, it's like the whole thing. And it did feel like I was really yeah, that's a tower moment for me, was quitting that job. And then I think many other moments have followed that. And even as I say that, like I think it's hard to answer because it's also like that moment for me was made possible because of tower moments that happened previously that year. So it's been a cascade. And I don't know where you like maybe you can guide us
Yeah.
which direction we'll go, but that's what I'll say for now.
Yeah. I do hear so much of your Saturn in that. Like it's it's a process. It's over time. Like, you reckon it's not just a one shot,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and also that perspective is true.
Yeah.
Like I've been talking a lot about this is like I do see it like kind of like tectonic plates or whatever, like
Mhm.
something's pushing and then all of a sudden there's the earthquake, but it's been happening under the surface
Mhm.
forever. It's part of a
Mhm.
long story
Mhm.
and a long process. And I find that helpful context to put in because I don't want to be like random shit happens in our lives and it's fucked up, or we make these big
Mhm.
changes and it's whatever. Like that's not exactly the story I want to tell, or that's not the only part I'm interested in. And so I think
Mhm.
just having the conversations, like seeing it over time, I think that for me, I would love to explore if you're willing, as you say, like it's not one moment,
Mhm.
but you chose to go to social work school, you chose to become a therapist, and you started to work in that environment. And like, what was surfacing for you as you were doing this work? Because again, like that, you were like, this isn't right. This isn't like, what was some of the moments or some of the, you don't have to be too specific about it, but just some of the awakenings that you had over that process that led to that decision? Because I remember like you talking about it in the Zoom calls,
Mhm.
and you were going through Saturn on your moon at that time, which was
Mhm.
heavy,
Mhm.
a reckoning, as it always is. And yeah, is there anything just like, yeah, talking about that before that build up? I mean, obviously you talk about the family history and the origins, which is, I think, a huge part of why it was such a big deal. Like it was like a
Mhm.
real breaking, but just like in the micro, what were some of those moments, or what were some
Like,
of the
what were the
realizations?
moments that led up to me
Yeah, that led
finally?
up to that decision, or like what were some of the
Yeah.
thoughts or whatever you feel like speaking about.
What's funny is that the thing that comes to mind, like the most immediate answer to that question. I don't know. It's just funny to me because it feels not that deep. But what comes to mind is like I was having conversation with my friend who was definitely like my closest conspirator in this whole process for me. She was my supervisor, and then we consulted together and just like really trust each other as people and as therapists. And I was talking to her for like the umpteenth time about my scheduling difficulties. And there's like so much I could say and kind of want to say about just like schedule and my life. And it's an ongoing, it's just really difficult part of my life is like figuring out how to spend my time and schedule my time and like be in between freedom and scheduledness. And the reason I'm even entertaining this tangent is because it feels so relevant to human design for me and like an ongoing, yeah, project. But I manage my own schedule as a therapist. I was in private practice, and that was like good and impossible. And
Mm.
so, I was talking to her forever. I had like been like I had like tried every possible schedule thing. And I remember doing this in grad school too. Like I think it's like the way that I have like the way that my frustration and like
Mm.
unsatisfaction with things and like things not working for me has surfaced most commonly is me trying to like hack them and be like,
Mm.
what if I did it this way? And I was literally at a point where I was like, what if I saw all my clients at 4 o'clock in the morning and then like would that work? Like, and I had like tried every version of being like, and then I was in like a conversation with her and I was like, you know what? Like, I like working. Like, I have the capacity to like working, but I'm constantly trying to make this job take up as little space as possible
Mm.
so that I can like live my life and not want to fucking die. And it just finally was like, you know what? This isn't right. Like, the thing that's going to feel good for me to be spending my energy on is not going to be something that I'm trying to do like in nothing o'clock so that I can like spend the rest of my time doing other things. And it was just finally like, oh, this is why. Because I kept being like, do other therapists do like what does everyone else do? Like, why are they fine working at these hours? And like
Mm.
the answer is because they like it. Like it's
Yeah.
satisfying to them, or whatever. They feel successful, like whatever their thing is. Like
Right.
it just wasn't. And it just was the thing that was the wake up call to me. And it's interesting to me, I think, yeah, because yeah, I think it just like again, there's like so many different stories I could tell about this job and what it means to me. And I know that there's like so many things I still haven't unpacked about it because it's like deeply ancestral. But on the surface, like it just like was actually like a how are you spending your time? And
Mm.
like do you want to be doing it that way? And I think it's helpful for me, especially with my like scorpionic well tendencies, to just be simple sometimes and be like, are you liking how you're spending your time? And the answer was like no, and I finally had to just realize that. And that was it. That was the final thing for me to be like, okay, I gotta stop doing this.
Yeah. And I'm curious because I hear so much of like this attunement to the body as a generator and like what lights you up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious like how human design and just how that played in like at all,
Hmm.
like because I just hear like as you say like you're feeling all this frustration, like your body didn't want to do it. Like this is stuff that we talk about a lot in human design. And I mean obviously you have a lot of other modalities that you've played with
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
emphasize that as well.
Hmm.
Um but yeah, I'm curious if that played in or if at all. Like human design,
How
understanding
did human design?
being a
Yeah.
generator, understanding
Yeah.
satisfaction,
Yeah.
understanding listening to the body.
I mean, it's interesting because I think retrospectively it totally plays in. Like what I just said is really just
Yeah.
strategy, right? Like, but I think, you and I were just talking about like another thing I'm going through recently and how it's like the biggest things for me, like the most deeply entrenched things where my mind is most involved, or, probably a lot of open spleen where my spleen is my lack of spleen is most involved. Those are the things where I like actually stop consciously thinking about human design. Like I don't actually think I
Mm,
was like because I would have stopped a lot earlier if I had been leaning on it. I think I was really like, I love my clients. Like this work is important. I think it's also really hard because I was really good at it, and like
Mm,
I think it's really meaningful. Like everything in my life is about relationships, and like, I talked about transformation, but like the kind of transformation I like is relational transformation, or whatever. I like all sorts of transformation, but I guess what I mean is all transformation I view as relational transformation. And I was like deep in that work with my people. And yeah, I was lost in that. I was not, I don't think I actually was. I think I was also like in deep study of human design. And so I think probably unconsciously it was helping, but I actually don't think in the moment. Like I think if I had been thinking more about it, I think it would have happened earlier. That being said, like you mentioned, I have a lot of other modalities that I work with, like, and a primary one, especially being in that work, is like nervous system,
right.
polyvagal understanding. And let me tell you, I was like really fucking dissociated. And I think that honestly was very, like, I was aware of that and it was problematic. And I say I was good at my job, but I think like I wasn't good at my job anymore because I was really dissociated. And doing like attachment work with people when my nervous system is out of the room is like, that's not safe or healthy for, well, whatever. I'm not trying to like
Yeah,
go
that's
down that. But I think I don't feel like I was showing up as my best self and like not the way I would want to be. And it was harmful for me. Like I have attachments with these people. And for me to be showing up to attachment with them when I was that dissociated was like not good for me. And so I think in that way I like was like aware of my body, aware of where it wasn't. And like it was really like I was unwell. I was like just unwell, nervous system wise, like physically, like I was unbelievably exhausted. I think frustration often shows up for me as exhaustion.
mm.
So yeah, those are some kind of somatic indicators.
Yeah, I can definitely hear that in what you're saying. And like, yeah, like dissociation is like a common uh, pathway for me. Like
Hmm.
and like it becomes just an indicator that something's off,
Yeah, yeah,
something's not safe.
right.
And, you know, it's not like it's just something to notice. And like clearly over time, it just came to a point where it was like your system was overloaded and
Hmm.
it couldn't handle anymore. And it basically just eventually, as you said, like it was more like a beyond any kind of awareness.
Hmm.
It was
Hmm.
just like a resurge, like a surge of like no more of this.
Yeah, totally.
And obviously leaving that stability, leaving that work, especially as you talk to me about like having so much Capricorn in your chart,
Hmm.
you like to work, you like to have a purpose, but
Hmm.
it became too much. So you kind of take the leap out of that.
Hmm.
What what did that feel like in the aftermath? What was that what was that like for you in kind of really letting go of this?
Yeah. I think my mind is going in like 100 directions. Let's just pick one or three.
There's no
Um,
rush.
I I guess I just want to say I think one of the directions is like circling back, which just for some reason this still feels present for me. Like I think it feels important to name that it was like I wasn't choosing. Like all the dissociation it felt like yeah, my body was choosing for me that it was a no,
Mm,
you know? And I don't know if this is like part of my reparative work of being like, hang on, I like now I'm trying to go back and like honor the fact that it's like my body did know that it was a no and it
yeah.
was saying no, and it was like, all right, you can like choose to sit in this seat, but like I will not be present for it.
Mm,
Um, and so finally I had to be like, well, actually, like my body has like already left. So I
right.
can either follow it out the
I'm
door
just
or
acknowledging
continue.
it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, this is like ongoing work of being like, I hear you. I hear that you like actually are just gonna dom me
Right.
always. And it's like how much am I gonna fight you on that?
Totally.
But yeah, okay. In answer to your question, I think I mean, I don't know. Like my first, like thinking back to that time, it is really, it's just like trippy because it was basically a year ago. And so I'm just like looking out the window and like this was the weather I was experiencing then. And yeah, it was like in, I guess it was Aries. It was April 1st. But yeah, I think it was this energy, and it was this energy of spring and me being like, okay, now I'm unemployed for the first time since I was 14. And I think I think it was like, yeah, I think it was like I didn't realize it. It took me a really long time for me to understand, and I'm literally still trying to understand that I like actually am free. I mean, and that's right, like could talk about that for hours on end, like trying like that to me kind of is deconditioning, or it's a big part of the work for me is like remembering that I'm free. But I think I think the way that that was showing up was like I just kept like I couldn't relax. Like I was like, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? What am I doing now? What am I doing? And it was like you can actually just like not. And I think I really had to learn how to like be in unstructured time and like had to learn that I could like not fill it to the brim because that's so easy for me to do. And I think I live in Chicago and I have really struggled to live in Chicago for basically the whole time I've been here. There are a lot of ways that it didn't feel right to me. And I've like never had a yes to any other place. And so it's been like, okay, I'm not gonna move just to move. Like there's no yes. So I'm waiting for that. But something else that like a month back, it was eclipse season. My last month of working, I was like ending all of these relationships with clients and in March, and I also like ended a relationship with like my best friend.
Mm.
And so that was like another thing that happened during that month, and that was really, really painful and hard. So I was also kind of working through that, and my brain was like, okay, well now there's no reason for me to be here. I'm not working anymore. Like I no longer have this like tether. Like there was another close friend I had in my life who I really hadn't been talking, like I wasn't feeling connected to. And so I was like, okay, this is my moment. It's time to go. Like that's what free fall means, right? Like my brain said. And it just was like, what are you doing? So I started travel, like I went on like all these small trips to visit friends or whatever. And each time I was like, is this the place? Am I going here? Like, am I moving here? Like I just like had all these ideas of like moving. Like my body just like really wanted to move and like couldn't really settle. And I think it hit me in maybe June or something. Yeah, that I was like, okay, actually I'm just here, I guess. I'm just here and I don't have a job now. And I don't have like an identity of that. And yeah, I mean I could go on, but I think that's like one answer to your question.
Yeah, I think that's helpful context. And like I just hear, I don't know, I'm just thinking of like there is like an ending, and like you're put into the void, you know, but you don't
Totally.
know you're in the void, or
Totally.
you want to be out of the void.
hmm
And like this feels very Scorpio to me. It's like you take this leap, and sometimes it is like the phrase like it's the feather bed, but sometimes it's like the darkness. It's
Yeah.
the unknown.
hmm
Like you need to, like you kind of thrust like into the not knowing, and like you lose a friend, you lose an identity, you like
hmm
you're exhaling a lot. A lot is
hmm
dying.
hmm
And it's like like it's like, well, I need something to grab onto. Like when's the next
Yeah.
thing?
Yeah, totally.
Especially when your identity has been tied up in like being useful in a certain way, being
hmm
productive in a certain way. Like it's not just like the job itself, it's the way of thinking, the identity, like all this stuff has to change and transmute. And it sounds like that beginning part was like you starting to realize that, or like understand. I mean, I wouldn't say like exactly that, but it was like, oh, there's no like quick pathway to the next thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I was looking so hard for the next thing. And I think about stimulation a lot because I think there is this way that like, you know, both because like this is where I think about like my PTSD a lot. I think we were talking earlier about how I hold this, I like hold astrology and human design and all these symptoms. I mean, sorry, that's Freudian slip. Systems of,
But
of
maybe important.
yeah, truly. Um, like that's like so much of the meaning making I do is with these systems, and also I have PTSD, and I'm like one of the like as I was saying, there's this sort of like huge middle of the Venn diagram, and then there's like some parts where I'm like maybe this is my trauma, and it's not actually useful for me to be trying to think about things in other lenses, but any which way, I think one of my symptoms and or like you can explain it with all of the systems is like this like love of stimulation and like passion and intensity. And I think that's part of it is that like being in the stillness and the like lack of stimulation of being like, okay, I quit my job and now I'm free is like, yeah, it's really unusual and unfamiliar and uncomfortable still and definitely then. And I'm thinking about the way you were talking about jumping like the free fall into the feather bed or versus the void. And I'm like, oh, I haven't thought about it this way, but like, yeah, it was Aries season
Hmm.
when I quit, and Aries is my 12th house. And I'm like, yeah, I jumped straight out into my 12th house.
Yeah.
And like, that is what it felt like. Like, I was like, I cannot fucking see anything. And I keep like looking and being like, oh, great, I'm moving to Pittsburgh now. And then it was like, Pittsburgh was like, no, you're not. Like, go back. Like, what, like, and then it was like, oh, I'm going over here. Oh, I'm moving. And I think it's been so cyclical. And the longer you know, it's interesting this like analogy of seeing and how I like couldn't see in the 12th house. And yeah, I felt like I jumped out of work and into my 12th house. And I think there are these ways that I couldn't see anything and I kept looking for it, but it just wasn't to be seen. It was dark. And it's been like this process, this like very long process of yeah, kind of like developing night vision.
Hmm.
Um, and I do like again, I like acknowledge that there's been so much Aries activation. So it's like, yes, Aries season lasted 4 weeks, but the 12th house, you know, feelings have been pretty persistent. And part of what that night vision has felt like to me is like learning to track cycles. And that like helps me trust, I think, that like when I can't see, there's like, it's like it goes underground and it comes back. And one of those ways, like when I was talking about like it's hard to say, it's hard to even like demarcate a tower moment for me because they're all so cyclical, like they're also connected. And like a major thing that happened in 2023 is that my grandmother died really traumatically in July. And that precipitated the year that like therapy had already been really hard. But I think starting with that, I like it became impossible for me to do my job. And one of the things, like this was very featherbed like for me, is that I quit my job not knowing anything. And then I found out that she left me money.
Hmm.
And that's like partly how I've been able to continue to be unemployed. I had some money from my job, but like I was not making a lot of money and not enough to be unemployed for a year. And that's like one of the ways that it's like I don't know like what analogy, but there's just this like there's so many visuals that like come up for me about the ways that these things like plant seeds and then like sprout. But in between there's the free fall. I keep needing to free fall first and then finding these things, even as it's dark, even as I'm in the void. And yeah, I mean like I ended up moving because I couldn't be in my apartment anymore and I like didn't know where to go and I tried again. I was like, okay, I'm not going to Pittsburgh, I guess. I'm going to the river like in Chicago. Maybe this is going to be better. And I like looked for all these apartments and again they were like no. Like and I freaked out and I was like, where's the sacral response? Where's the sacral response? Like where's my intuition? And then like I had all these like smaller learnings, but I ended up going to California for a month and then coming back and then hopping around and staying with friends. Like it's been such a long, like there've been so many different moments of this like kind of night vision feeling of like trying to just feel into what the next steps are, even if they're small and they feel like they're nowhere. And yeah, I mean, like again, could go on, but I think there's like something about this cycles thing that feels important to me and feels like it's been a big part of like it has not been easy and it has not been fun in a lot of ways. Like this like learning what freedom feels like and like how can I sustain myself in this feeling? And like I have this like deep craving to be free all the time and I'm constantly like but wait I think I already am like there's so much of that but I think yeah I think this like this way that like there are these there's like some kind of like continuity I guess is maybe what I'm trying to get at with the cycles like there's some kind of continuity even in the void.
Like you feel like there's some context that you can hold on to throughout it, or like some
Yeah, or like
patterns.
there's like I think it's what am I trying to say? So what ended up happening was I like went to California largely to try to like dangle a carrot in front of my sacral
Hmm.
to be like, are you
Yeah,
gonna
like,
chomp?
are you gonna go for it?
Yeah. And I just kept being like, yes, 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 no, like why no? Like, and then, a lot of other shit happened. Like my sister got like really sick and like moved to Chicago when I moved out and it was like there were like reasons for me to come back to Chicago. And then I was like, okay, I guess I'm staying with friends. And I ended up doing that for 2 months. And there was so much I learned from living in different places in Chicago and like having to confront the feeling that I don't have community and that I don't have people that would house me. And like that was a whole like every 1 week to 2 weeks that I spent with someone was its own portal.
Yeah.
But I ended up, as you know, moving. Like, first, I found a sublet in January for a few months in Chicago, and I just started living somewhere on April 1st, exactly a year from quitting my job.
Mm.
Um, and this place feels so nice. It's like the most stable in any kind of home that I've felt ever in my life. And I've only been here obviously for a month, but I don't really remember other times feeling like just like easeful.
Mm.
Like it was like a really easy move and it was an easy like it's just been sweet for a number of reasons and yeah, maybe the thing I was saying about cycles isn't actually that clear, but like in my head there's something about this like I'm not all the way across like this has not fucking been Eat, Pray, Love or like any
No.
like it has not been that. It has been void, it has been panic attacks, it has been like like what the hell am I doing? Shattering after shattering after shattering. And I keep thinking, like, oh, this is what it's all like. I keep trying to make it Eat, Pray, Love, Like I keep trying to
Mm.
have some sort of like whatever white lady like bow. And
Like you're
like,
just trying to get to the finish line of whatever it
yeah,
is.
exactly. And like I think even or like just trying to feel like I'm some kind of mythological, like I don't know. Like I think there's like this way of trying to be like, this is why, like everything is self-important and like whatever. Like, and it's just not. It's like confusing and it's humbling and it's like just living life and like trying to be okay. Um and there are these ways that like yeah, I ended up back in Chicago, and like who knows where I'll be next week. It's not like I'm like now it's done, but I think um yeah, the being surprised beyond like even when I don't think I have an expectation, I still manage to surprise myself. Um, and that yeah, that feels humbling.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm going to say this first thing just to get this out of my head. Like what you're talking about, this wanting there to be an eat, pray, love moment, wanting there to be a happy ending. And then there's just life and there's just
Hmm.
what it is
Hmm.
and the pain and the transformation and the past trauma and the healing. I felt that a lot in this podcast. Like there's just this thing in me that was like, well, we all have to end every podcast on a happy note. We have to
Mm,
make people feel good. And I'm
mhm,
really like being confronted a lot with how that is me trying to avoid certain aspects of the truth
mhm,
of what transformation is. So I'm naming that just like because I want to, I think what you reflected to me that. But the other piece I wanted to, like, there's a bunch of threads I want to get to.
mm,
One is like, you said, like, you think about transformation only in relationships, or like
mm,
that's like the main container for how you think
mhm,
about them. And I
mhm,
just, and then also I want to think about the cycles. Like hearing your story, I hear the cycle of Chicago, leave, come back, leave,
mhm,
come back,
mhm,
you
mhm,
know, this push pull,
mhm,
but also this story of you. I just think about the vulnerability of asking to stay with someone,
mhm.
the vulnerability
Yeah.
of saying, I need help
Mhm,
and I need support.
mhm,
And just that process, like having watched you a little bit go through that, like I don't think you were like like it wasn't easy,
mhm.
but I'm curious if you like what that experience has. And again, you're still fresh in it, but like what you learned about yourself through that,
Through the vulnerability
for
of
the
us.
vulnerability of like having to like because when you have your own apartment, like you're in control, you don't have to be vulnerable.
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
losing that safety puts you in a more vulnerable place.
Totally, yeah.
And I'm like wondering what that has brought you. And because
Yeah.
obviously you're kind of out of that phase now. Like this new place, like you can
Right.
stay there as long as you want.
Yeah.
It's not like the
Yeah.
same thing. And
Yeah.
I've been curious about that experience. Like what?
Yeah, totally. Again, I'm gonna like get at this in a non-linear way, but I think what it afforded me was the ability to keep being on the move and like not freak out about being in a place that was a no to me. Like commitment
Mm,
was really scary to me because I just was like, I cannot be in contracts that don't feel correct for me anymore. And like I knew this even when I signed the lease for my apartment, like the one that I moved out of in Virgo season was like I knew when I signed that lease, I was like, this is not going to be correct. Like I could feel it.
mm.
But here's like I think part of my brain is going to keep trying to explain the cycles thing because I feel like I have not correct. Like I'm like
Keep coming back
unsatisfied
because
with it.
you're trying to get at something.
I'm gonna thank you. But like it yeah, cycles probably isn't the right word. There's just this thing about like planting a seed that like I it's like I plant it and then you just like there's like this moment of like you plant the seed and then you don't know if it's going to grow, and sometimes you don't even realize you planted the seed, but then it does, and then you
Yeah.
see it and you're like, I get it now. And I think that's maybe more of what I'm trying to get after, of like my grandmother dies, I have
Yeah.
this shit show of a year,
Yeah.
and then I quit my job, and then I find out, oh my God, like
I have
I
money.
actually now have money to be able to like try to heal myself like in an
Yeah.
actual way, and like it's like another seed was like this moment that I was like, this is not right for me to be in this apartment. And I knew that. And I like signed it too late. And finally, my landlord was like, what the fuck is going on? Are you staying here or not? And I finally was like, I guess so. And then later, and then I went through this period of time when I was like, I have to get the hell out of here. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not right. Even though it was a beautiful apartment and like all these things, but I just, so it was hard for me to trust that I had to get out because it looked like I didn't, but I did. And and then I was like, I knew it. I thought I knew, right? I thought I knew that I was like, I knew it. I shouldn't have stayed here. I shouldn't have, like, I knew that I didn't want to be in that contract. But then it turned out that, like, I had painted the apartment and I had all this like stuff in it and stuff I had installed and all these things. And when I found a subletter for it, I got like, they like gave me money for all of my furniture and I didn't need to repaint the apartment and like all these things, so it was like, even that was like,
And that's
I
another seed coming to
Exactly. It
fruition.
was
Yeah.
like, like, and multiple times I was like, okay, first I knew, then I was mad at myself for like going against my intuition.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait a minute. Both the intuition that the contract was wrong and the intuition to still sign it were both seeds that
Mm,
ended up sprouting.
yeah.
And
Okay, can I get back to what you actually asked me?
No, I don't think if it's just keep going.
Yeah, no, no, I want to though. Like I
Yeah.
think the piece about like yeah, I mean, because it's huge. Like I think staying with people. I think I think the reason I went there is because I was thinking about contracts, right? And like
Yeah.
I was really clear in the fall that I was like, I cannot be part of any contracts that don't feel correct to me,
Right.
and that's part of like an embodied like incorporation of human design for me is like I just have to trust that like and it feels related in some ways to the 3740 for me of being like the exchange has to be correct. Like I cannot be signing my name on things that I feel like this is, I just have to trust that. And so a lot of what staying with people in this very short term
Hmm.
fashion was for me was like I can have a place to stay that's safe, but I don't have to be like signing my name on anything when
Mm.
I'm honoring the fact that I truly don't know. Like I don't know anything else. Like I don't really want to be in Chicago, but I also this is where my friends are, for the
Yeah.
most part. And this is where my sister is. I want to be with her. And like I just like this is it. Like I found so on like a really logistical level, that was like honoring the fact that even subletting for like a month at that point felt like too much of a commitment for me.
Mm.
And yes, in the meantime, as you are pointing out, it was unbelievably vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like life was also showing me that like I had people that could
Hmm.
would like let me be in their homes. And it was not easy. Like some of the people I stayed with were like it was really challenging, not because like they're not wonderful people, but because like it was a hard like I am not I'm so sensitive to feeling like a burden and I'm so scared
Mm.
of taking up too much space. And I like learned a lot about myself in those respects too. Like some things I learned were like dynamics that work better for me like sharing space with someone. Some things I learned were like, I really need to feel welcome. Like, I need you to go out of your way to
Hmm.
like make sure I know and feel that you like want me here. And that's not because like I deserve that or because like you should, but because that's just like the way that my attachment system is. And like, I like both strengthened all of my relationships with those people and also like have been in this ongoing realization, which I did not realize when I left my apartment, that I need to live with people. Like,
Mm.
I like a huge part of why my current place is like nourishing for me is because I have a roommate and I have friends living below me.
Mm.
And like, that's so important to me. And it was so triggering.
Yeah.
And I think that living with people, a bunch of people back to back and then subletting when I went for the like I was like okay I'm ready to sublet. I'm like so freaking exhausted. I'm like ready to
Hmm.
sublet for 3 months at a time, and I had a roommate there
Hmm.
and now I have a roommate here, and so in a way it was all kind of gearing me up to be able to have a roommate and like let my nervous system is like okay enough to be able to have a roommate now, which I like really need for my energy. I just like need to be around people and living with people, and that's what feels good to me. But yeah, I think that's a lot of like, I mean, there's so much more that could be said. And I think like there was a lot of love and a lot of like having to reckon with the fact that like, yeah, I actually do have people here, even if my stories are that I don't.
Mm.
But I also think it was like deep learning of like, oh my God, I have to live with people. Like that's a lot of what I need. Um, yeah,
Which feels very 3740 to me.
totally,
Yeah.
totally. Yeah.
And like I'm curious about the nervous system capacity to be with people
Hmm.
because it brings up a lot. And again, this is probably me projecting, but for me it does.
Hmm.
Like to be in space with people to and just like what you talk about like feeling like a burden and then needing to know that you're welcome because like that's well again like for me I feel that too and it's like a healing when someone makes it feel like my needs aren't a burden and
Yeah.
like it shifts my capacity to be with people. You and I have very different needs around that, which we've talked about. I'm more of a loner
Hmm.
at core.
Yeah.
Um, which is fine, and that's just truly what I prefer. But I have more community than I ever have, and it's been like a real it's been opening, but it's been really challenging to, like, for example, I told you I adopted this cat, and then I realized, like, it was an impulse decision. 2 weeks later, I'm going away, and someone has to take care of the cat. And I'm
Yeah.
like, the truly the worst feeling in the world to me is
Mm.
asking for help. It makes me want to crawl out of my skin and tear my eyes out. It's the worst feeling. And so I had to text like this friend group chat I'm on, being like, does anyone know of anyone who could take care of my cat? Like, not even asking
Yeah,
direct.
totally. So indirect.
I was so does anyone know of anyone who could take care of my cat? And like three people were like, yeah, like I can take one a day or two. And I like hobbled it together. I got my girlfriend to do like
Mm,
2 days, and then someone came 2 times, and another two other person came 2 times, and someone came once, and we made it
mhm,
work.
mm.
But it was like truly like it was like so horrible of a feeling, and also like I felt so loved, you
Mm.
know, because someone was there for me
Yeah,
when I asked for help.
yeah.
And I think about like what you're talking about, and like as I said, you're more attuned to this than I am. Eh, but some things can only be worked through in relationship.
Mhm,
Some
mhm.
trauma stuff can only be worked through in relationship. Like you can do work on your own,
Yeah,
but there's some things that need other people
yeah.
to really heal.
Totally. And I think it's also like relatedly, like there's things that I could only learn through
Mm,
relationship, you know? And like it sounds so silly to be like, I didn't realize that I needed to live with people, but like even that, it's like a pretty basic thing, but I only learned that from being with them.
yeah.
And, I think even though it was really hard to be in situations where I didn't feel comfortable or welcome, I also think this is maybe one of the more like type two, like more like retrospective learning, but it's like the reality is that I was welcome in all of those situations. And that too is learning that like I was welcome and I didn't feel welcome. Like that's like
Mm,
really helpful for being like, yeah, that's real. You don't feel welcome. And maybe that actually still means you need to go, like because I think and that's its own learning too, is to be like, I don't feel welcome right now. That doesn't mean I'm not welcome, but it can still mean that I need to go be somewhere that feels better for me.
yeah.
Um, that's sort of like holding multiple truths. And yeah, I think yeah, it was like it was deep healing, and deep healing is not always fun, but I think I had so many moments of being like, like the first person I stayed with, my like dear friend. It was actually like one of the easier places for me, but it was really cool. Like I said, they were all portals. Like each one was its own sort of learning experience, and that one just really sticks out in my mind as a place where like I was being so walk on eggshells for the first like part of it. And then I was like, wait a minute. I'm like observing, so hyper vigilant, like
Hmm.
like and watching her like a hawk and her husband like and then I was like, oh, yes, she likes it clean, but she also likes to clean. She's cleaning because she's taking care of herself. She's
Mm,
not telling me to clean. She's not telling me I'm unclean. Like, it's just like these like basic things that I was
yeah.
like just like it's like such full like baby energy of being like, oh, and I am learning that like, like I just like putting it all together.
But it's
Uh,
not baby, like that's like the real work is like
yeah,
being in it, in the
yeah,
emotions, and
totally.
like having these realizations, and like I like that's what it is. It's like I feel vulnerable and I have to ask for help, or I feel awkward and I
Mhm,
feel like I need to say that, or whatever. Like
mhm,
I don't know, like that's where like the alchemy is happening. And like I know like throughout this time, like you've mentioned, like you've had these big things emerge, these emotions, these past traumas, and like and it's happened in like I'm kind of focusing on this little piece of your story, but like it's happened throughout the whole thing
yeah,
of like
yeah, yeah.
you created all this space, as you say, like you even said it, like your mother from the money from your grandmother was like giving you the space
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
heal.
Hmm.
And I'm
Yeah.
just curious, like obviously you're still in it and I don't want to like put too much of a bow on it, but like I do think your perspective is interesting on like how you meet those moments
Mm.
when shit comes up. Like what has been helpful or what has been, and again, it might change or whatever you feel like speaking about in this moment. Because I think you're someone who doesn't shy away from like the hard thing. And I just
Yeah.
think it's helpful to hear about
Yeah.
that.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate you like seeing that in me. I mean, one answer, I don't, I really, this really doesn't feel like the whole thing, but it does feel like something I keep relearning again and again. I keep remembering, which is that, nervous system grounding. Like, I only have access, like, I am a meaning maker. I just, like, I am so eye roll at myself about all the stories I tell. And,
Mm-hmm.
like, it just is who I am. Like, that's like Jupiter in my fifth house. Like, I just, like, I've got like a million placements in the ninth. Like, that's just like the way that I'm also, yeah, an emotional being. Like, I am like what brings me peace is making meaning of my life and making meaning of a lot of the hard things that have happened in my life. And I like only have capacity to make meaning if my nervous system is calm enough to do so. Like
Mm.
it's such a crutch for me that I'm like literally in the middle of a crisis and I'm like, what is the meaning of this? Like, what am I
Yeah.
doing? Like it's like that's like just not gonna fucking work. And like no meaning that I like think I make in that moment is like helpful for anyone. And yeah, so I think like I'm like in a process of this in this moment. I'm like really trying to lean on this Taurus energy to like get back in my body and like take care of my body and like do material things for myself. Because all of that is taking care of my nervous system. And I think, yeah, my like air sign airheadedness doesn't always remember like to that like I can't do the like heady shit that I want to do unless my like earthiness is
Mm.
accounted for, i.e. like my nervous system is like regulated enough to be able to do that. And so that's yeah, that's like one answer I think. Because I don't, yeah, I don't shy away from the hard, but I do think sometimes the meaning making is its own trying to shy away from the hard.
It's like
Like,
you seem like you're actually not shying away from it, but you kind of
exactly.
are.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because being still, being like still with, or it's not even still, but just like being present with the movement of my emotional wave and like my emotional body is hard. And like
Yeah.
it's really, and like there's a lack of meaning there actually, because there's a lack of knowing. There's
Mm.
just being and feeling, and it's fucking hard. And it's like the more I do it, the more intense it gets because it kind of I mean, it's Pisces moon, like there's literally no balance to the emotion that I can feel and it's overwhelming. And there's just like no matter how many times I do this and how aware I get, it doesn't it like there are ways that sometimes it's easier, but it never gets less intense.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think it's like ways of like weathering intensity for me largely are like taking care of my body. And yeah, I do think there's other pieces of it in terms of like what does it feel like? I think in some ways, honestly, I think I'm someone that like, yeah, overwhelm is a big part of my existence. Maybe there's a day it will not be. That sounds nice to me, but in this moment in time, like a lot of my life is about managing my overwhelm. And the way that I like to do that is like maintenance of it. And so I'm someone that it's much better for me to like do more dishwasher loads of like 5 dishes at a time than like wait until the sink gets big and then I put it, you know what I mean? Like I just like, and I think death processes, tower moments are overwhelming by nature. And there's no like getting around that, but I do think there's a way that like death moments are happening actually like constantly for me. I would guess for more than me, but I'll speak for myself. And attuning to that and like tending to that does make it easier. For example, one of the things that made me resistant to moving is because I had so much fucking shit. Like I'm again like Taurus rising, like nested as fuck. And so I had like all of this stuff. Like I said, I had painted the walls, blah, blah, blah. And so that like gives me more resistance to like leaving, and was overwhelming for me. And having that much stuff is like an example of something that it's like it's nice and it feels good, but like if my work in this moment is like tending to this ongoing tower process, then like my priority has become like what makes tuning into death easier. And I have less stuff now. You know, I have less stuff because it's easier to clean. It's easier to let things go. Like I'm in a regular process of being like, does this thing not look good on me? Does it not make me feel good? Whatever the thing is, like I throw things out a lot. I throw things out materially. I try to throw, like I'm trying to facilitate change and tune into the way that change happens constantly because then it becomes part of my process. First of all, I'm accumulating less like detritus to
Mm-hmm.
then like clear out in these big eclipse moments. And I'm also just like getting more practiced in it. And you know, if I'm focusing on like the micro death work every day, then like the more macro death work feels a little bit more familiar and like less towery. Like yesterday I was like, or like this morning, I think I like heard a car alarm going off. And I just had this moment of being like, is that my car? That could be a tower moment. But then I was like, maybe it's my car. Maybe someone broke into my car. Maybe someone stole my shit. And like, then I'll just be fine, you know, like then I'll just deal with it. And I think that's the kind of thing where it's like, I'm only really able to do that because I am constantly like, tower moments happen every day. A lot of it is perception, you know?
Mm. I just like hear in what you were saying, it's like this, like you were saying, like I can't remember exactly how you phrased it, but it was like, you know, dealing with overwhelm and like needing these like consistent things to process it. And then like connecting it to what you were saying about like the tower moments of life and like
Hmm.
letting go as a practice, like doing it in the micro so that you can better manage the macro.
Hmm.
And yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And it's like, I don't know, I keep thinking about like I just was on a plane recently from Newark Airport, and I don't know if you see the news, but basically there was a lot going wrong there. And I was like on the plane and there was like a ton of turbulence and like, you know, obviously like you get scared. Like I don't
Hmm.
want to die.
Hmm.
But then I find on planes a lot, I just go, okay, I'm gonna die. It's already
Hmm.
decided.
Hmm.
And that
Hmm.
like takes away the fear, you know, it's like going to that, the truth of that possibility
Yeah.
is the thing that makes it easier to be in that experience.
Hmm.
And I think that's like true in life. Like it's the thing we avoid, like death. I mean, as a society, we avoid death so much, but it's like, yeah, I am going to die. Like
Hmm.
facing that and admitting it makes it actually have less power and weight and makes us more able to be with all the kinds of deaths we experience in life. And that's what I hear in what you're saying is like, let's just face it. There's tower, there's change, there's
Yeah, yeah.
transformation. Let's just try to practice being with it as much as possible. And like, it does feel like again, like we're using the you leaving the job as the moment, but it's kind of not, it's been a much bigger thing that you've been going through, but like, it's like an identity is dying in you
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you're just like letting it go and it takes time, you know, to transmute into whatever the next thing is. But like while that's happening, let's be honest, you
Yeah.
know, let's look at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to move into another direction, but before that, is there anything else that's coming up for you in this arena?
No, I mean, I think, yeah, I think I'm just sitting with like the fact that like change is so constant
Mm.
and like it's not like I'm like I said, I'm like I let go of things more now because of the overwhelm piece, but it's also like there's ways that I'm doing that that are just like it's not even like I'm doing it necessarily. I'm just like
Mm.
tuning in to the fact that it is constant.
Yeah.
And like that makes me more comfortable with the like it gives me my sea legs kind
Hmm.
of like and then tower moments, yeah, just feel less towery. And I think that's part of why it's so hard to zoom in on like a moment for me because I'm like it's just change. It's like
Yeah.
and the more I get used to my life being in constant change. I mean like I really wonder if there will be a moment that I return to that feels like a period of stagnancy or like stillness, or it will always be like once you start tuning into change, it's kind of hard to tune away. for me. And it hasn't, yeah, especially with like 2027 energy. Like I'm like, I don't know, man. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, but anyway, that's what's present for me. But yeah, I'm glad to go in whatever direction you want to go in.
Yeah, I think I just want to like what you're talking to. I feel like I'm glad you brought up 2047 because I was thinking that as you were talking. It's like we're going according to human design and, you don't need to subscribe to that, but we do, or we tune into that idea that there is this shift that's happening in human consciousness and we're moving into a very different energy. And that's why our systems are collapsing in the way that they are. And that frequency, the frequency that we're going into, is a lot about it's like it's a lot about being in the present. It's not about continuity and stability in the way the old thing was. So there is some, even though it was always true that shit was changing, it's maybe going to be more up. And at the same time, even change changes, like there will be a different flavor or phase, I'm sure. But I think the thing that I keep wanting to come back to and I keep thinking about is this what if I'm already free thing.
Mhm, mhm.
And then this discomfort with stillness that you mentioned, or this, I don't know, this something about stillness feels important, even though we're talking about constant change.
Yeah, totally.
And I just like those themes, like you've mentioned them a couple of times, but we've never really dug in. And I'm just curious if there's anything that you want to say about like either of those things. Like, what if I'm already free? And
Mm,
what is it about stillness that, like, what is that? What does stillness bring up for you?
yeah.
Either or.
Oof. Um, I mean, I'm thinking about the stillness question. It's a good question for me in this moment because, yeah, I am in a period of more stillness right now. And I mean, this is one of those like moments where like what feels truest for me is like this is maybe that sliver of the Venn diagram that's like for me very PTSD heavy
Yeah.
and is real, It's like stillness is unfamiliar to me, like I'm very used to and comfortable being in crisis. And when you're like really I've been raised in crisis and then there's this way where everything looks like crisis. And so that's been a lot of my like healing work has been like, yeah, could my car be broken into and not be a crisis?
Hmm.
And I think the answer now is yes. And for most of my life was no. But I think, right, like the stillness is still unfamiliar. I'm like, what am I working on? What am I changing? What do I need to make better? Like it's like such deep conditioning for me that I like always need to be improving something. And so I think that's part of why stillness is hard. And I think it's also just like the waiting, like the pressure. Like I feel a lot of mental pressure, and I think I feel a lot of like the the revving of the engine thing without like I'm gathering. I think a lot of why I'm feeling it more recently because I wasn't really feeling that difficulty with stillness. Like I'm craving stillness when in the rest of my life, right?
Right.
Like, and now I like got it, and I'm like,
Right.
no.
Yeah.
And I think part of like I have a suspicion. Like I think part of it is like I have to get used to this. I just do, and I also have a suspicion that like because I've been like yeah, feeling better about like my romantic relationship and my like now I have like a home for the first time in a long time and the community is feeling better and like I'm sort of like me and Chicago are like on speaking terms in this moment.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the things there is more stillness and in that I think that also like gives me more energy. Basically what I'm getting at is like I think something's building for me. I think there like will be some more excitement and like some projects that I'm working on or something like I feel like something is coming and it's not here in this moment. So it's not just stillness for me. It's like stillness and feeling this kind of subterranean revving engine feeling that's
Mm.
really hard to sit with. And I don't know what stillness without that would feel like because I don't know if that even really exists in life, but that it's like that's the part for me that feels hard is that I like feel this like amping up energy that maybe that's just generator stuff. Maybe that's my like 952. Like, I don't know. But I think that's part of what's hard is like feeling something build and it's still not being time to move. That's challenging to be like, I don't know what it is, and I don't even know if it's happening. It just kind of feels like it is. And I want it to be, and I'm still here in this moment. It's like easy to be, it's like how to do nothing. That book was like big for a reason. And I think it's hard. Like, I think I'm used to a lot of stimulation and a lot of crisis and a lot of like demands on me. And honestly, it does feel free. It does feel related to the other piece of being like how to be free is I don't think I know how to be free, like part of it is that too, is like I think part of being free, I hope, means that like I get to experience stillness and calm and like not having a demand on my time. And, you know, like today I had like not even, it was literally like 2 hours Toland that I like didn't have accounted for. And I was like, "Ugh," like what happens now? And then I was like, I'm gonna go on a bike ride to like get a coffee. It was like, like just like something really simple, but like one of my things that I'm wanting is to like build up my third house, like find my local places and like, there's like all these things that I want for myself, but then I'm not used to having the like space in my life to tend to them because I'm like doing some big like dramatic thing, even if the big dramatic thing is just working, but it's like,
Mhm.
or it's travel, or it's like dealing with a relational conflict or whatever. And it's like, I think I need those moments of, I guess, I don't know. I guess it's just feeling free includes moments of stillness so that I can like remember other things I want to do sometimes, or like so that they can present themselves to me. And it feels like surrender. Like I feel happiest and best when I like don't make a lot of plans and I have a lot of spaciousness in my time. And then maybe someone texts me and I get to say yes. And then I feel so excited that I like am surprised. Like, I love surprise. I
Mm.
love the experience of like being like, now I'm doing a thing that I had no idea I was gonna do, And maybe that's, yeah, with someone, or maybe it's like, I don't know, I'm reading a book that I like needed to be bored enough to like start reading. And then when I start reading, I'm like in love with the characters and I'm in a whole new world and I'm like on another ride. But I think this is me riffing on stillness and what it's feeling like in moments right now.
Mhm. Yeah, that was beautiful. There's so much in that that I liked, and I'm glad you connected to freedom because they weren't connected to me, but I'm glad you did. But I just keep hearing like everything we just said about death always happening is true, and things always changing is true, and it's also true that things are always being born, and it's
Mm.
also true that some things remain, some
Yeah,
things stay, you know?
that's, yeah,
And
totally.
then just like I feel like throughout our conversation we've gone into the different we've gone into different aspects of that. And it's
Mm.
like what if it was all true? And what if is that is the freedom, is like being with it all, the ability and the privilege to be with it all. I don't even know really what I'm saying. I just think like this conversation is just like making me appreciate being a human, what it is, if that makes sense. And how horrible, but also how like beautiful it can be. And like obviously you and I both are people, like you said, like I like to make meaning of things. Like that is important to me. That is how I survive, And I I don't know. I think I'm just like yeah. And I think I'm glad for that. I'm glad that I found ways to make meaning because it makes it easier to be here. Makes it
Yeah,
easier to do the human thing for
totally,
me,
totally.
you know.
Yeah,
Even though sometimes we can go too far into the meaning and like
totally.
this is all about my astral. But like that's also part of it. It's like everything's a balance, everything we're experiencing it all. But yeah, I I'm feeling like we're complete.
Yeah.
But before we go, first of all, any last words you have? And then also, if you want to be connected with, where do you want to be connected with?
I That's a good question. I mean, I'm not really on social media, so that's not a good way to find me. Probably like my email or my phone number. I don't want to put my phone number on this
I
podcast,
wouldn't
but
recommend it.
you could reach out to
Even
Toland
though
if
we
you
don't
want to
have a
text
large
me.
listenership, who knows what's going to happen in the future?
No, I'm not. I would never. But if you want to give people my number and they reach out to you, go for it.
Okay.
Otherwise, you can put my email in the show notes.
All right.
Yeah.
Email you to talk about change, transformation, or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm starting to do readings for human design and tarot and astrology.
Yeah.
So
I'm
I
excited
feel
about
like
that.
I'm for that. That's been really fun. Yeah, I think as far as last thoughts, I'm honestly sitting with what you just said. Like, I feel like that's a big full moon takeaway for me. Like, and like so fixed and so, yeah, so the wisdom of the fixed signs is like, and things remain. And I think the reason it's resonating so hard is because, like, you and I were just talking about this hard thing that I've been integrating for the last month. And I, like, you know, like super briefly was like trying to make something happen that I like finally realized my body doesn't want to be making this happen, but I've been so attached to it. And I've still been kind of thumbing over like, why? Like, why isn't it meant to be? Like, why? Like, I know I have to listen to my body, but I don't know why. And I want to know why. Like, and I think one of the whys is like, because there's like other things to tune into right now in my life that remain, like that are
Mm,
actually really beautiful. Like I just moved into this place. Like things are feeling really good in my community and in my relationship. And I think again, I think I'm over comfortable with like the towerness of it all. And
mm,
so I'm like, okay, what's the next thing? Like what's like I want things to be born and I want things to die. But there's this like whole middle place of like, look what was just born. Like like
mm.
literally what was just born, like what is there to like bathe in, And
Which
yeah,
is
I'm really grateful for you reflecting that because it's such a beautiful reminder of like, yeah, it's that same thing. It's like I'm already free. Like there's so much beauty right now to attend to that like is so important for being able to do the rest of the work.
exactly. And that's my Taurus. That's my Taurus.
Thank you,
It's all we
Taurus.
care about.
We
Let's just
love you for
enjoy it.
that.
Let's just sit in the grass. Let's just eat something good. Let's just not change and be really stubborn about it.
Yeah,
But sometimes that's what we need, and that's what Taurus season gives us. And I think like what can remain? What can we keep? What is
yeah,
good already? So
yeah.
yeah,
Beautiful.
let's leave it on that note. Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Tillman.
All
This was
right.
beautiful.